the final step that you need to do for processing the files is the photometric calibration, and like with the astrometry, you do that by pressing the photometric calibration button. Again, this process will take a while in some cases, hence please don't close the browser. What the software does is it detects all the stars in your picture and measures their magnitude. It then compares their magnitude to a calibration catalog that we have for the filter that you're using, so in this case the visual filter, and what we then need to decide is, has the calibration process actually successfully been performed. To do this, or to help us with that decision, the software displays two graphs on the screen. Let's have a look at the top one first. All the stars that the software has found in that picture are displayed as little points, and the software plotted the uncalibrated magnitude, so this is the magnitude it has measured straight from your picture, versus the difference in that uncalibrated magnitude and the magnitude that the stars actually should have, the calibration or the magnitude that the star has in our calibration catalog. It then also plots a blue line, which is simply just a median filter of all the black points, and there's two horizontal lines, a green and the yellow one, the yellow on the left, the green on the right, which basically gives a range of magnitudes that the software considers the stars are either non-saturated or above a certain signal to noise threshold. The software then fits a function to the blue line and subtracts this, which will calibrate the magnitudes of the stars in your picture, and then it generates a second plot where it then plots the now calibrated magnitude versus the difference between the calibrated magnitude and the magnitude that the stars have in the calibration catalog. And if the calibration is successful, all the points should line up roughly around 0. And this is roughly true. The green points give you an idea how big the typical scatter is. So here in this case we see the scatter is about 0.1 magnitude, and then it increases towards the fainter objects. This is what typically should happen. Now we need to basically see, are we happy with the data or not. If you're not happy with the data, if you scroll down, there's two red buttons which you can press. So if you're really unhappy with the data and you basically see no chance of recalibrating the data so that it will look as we like it to be, then you can delete the file. Simply, these could be files where there were too many clouds and the data can really not be calibrated. Or you would like to reprocess the file from the start if you think that some of the scatter that you see is caused by the fact that maybe the software assumes it's using the wrong filter in its calibration. So what we need to look out for is basically, does the scatter get larger towards fainter magnitudes? That is fine, and is it small enough for the brighter stars? In this case, I would say this is borderline. The red points, which are the same points as in the top graph here, scatter quite a lot, so plus minus 0.1 magnitude, which is actually quite poor. But nevertheless, it is just about acceptable. If this gets bigger than 0.2 magnitudes, then we wouldn't like to include the data, and you should delete the file and not include it in the database. You can see in the bottom graph there's also some small black dots, which are also stars, which the software has found, but something has prevented the software from determining the magnitudes accurately. So these could be stars which are either near the edge of an image or are very faint, so that's why you see a lot of them on the right hand side here, or some of them are saturated on the left hand side. So what you like is that the software actually includes most of the stars in the calibration process. So in this case, you would like that this green line here is pushed a little bit further to the right, but not by much. So you can basically do this by manually shifting this line on the right a little bit towards fainter magnitude. So in this case, at the moment, the line is at 19.3 or 2 in the top graph. So you can change this value here. This is the max use value to something like 19.5 and simply recalibrate the image using this new border. So the software is estimating these values for those two cutoffs automatically and gets it wrong sometimes, but you can manually change them. And now there's a few more stars being included in the calibration. You see the scatter, of course, doesn't really change for the bright stars, and this would be just about acceptable. So the actual scatter or uncertainty of the photometry for this picture for each star is quite high, but we just about can accept that. So by clicking the green button, we'll accept the software, and all the data is now ingested into the database.